All right, so this is going to be episode 2 of the Citizen Effect podcast. I am Keith Whiddon, Whiddon Criminal Defense, and one half of Erase My Arrest. And today we, of course, have Devin, the other half of Erase My Arrest.
Devin Jones, Erase My Arrest, the other partner, Keith. And today we have Brennan Manning, who is with the Manning firm. He is the newest member of the Manning firm and one half of the Manning firm. And I presume once you get out of Monroe, he is Baton Rouge and Shreveport Manning.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Brennan Manning here with the Manning Law Firm, right across the street from where we currently are. That's where the office is. Glad to be here with you guys.
Well, I'm glad that you volunteered to be like, yeah, I'll be on episode 2. So I don't know what y'all are doing, but I mean, I'll give it a shot.
Well, that makes 3 of us in the room, you know. Look, man, I met Brennan, 3 years ago in court one day, saw him, went back to the office, and one of the guys that's one of my law partners at E.O.M. Young said, hey, I know that guy. I went to school with him. Yeah. And I said, yeah, and then I found out it was Bobby's son, and that, just ever since that, and just kind of watched, Brennan's part of what we'd call the kind of new age that's coming around. It's a different brand of marketing and presentation, but you see it in larger cities, but he's kind of bringing it here. He's on the forefront.
Exactly. I would like to think that, I helped bring some of that in, kind of was the beta to it. But then we've got Brennan and some of the guys where they kind of left me behind a little bit. So
yeah, I agree with that. You did start when I came back. I saw you was doing your thing and everything was working in your favor. And then not to mention you had your suit game up.
Well, that's because I went to Kelvin, and so shout out to Christopher's Pinpoint, Kelvin Horn, the official suitier for Whiddon Criminal Defense, the official suitier for the Manning Law Firm, the official suitier for who else?
Pretty much anybody who wears suits, who loves to get dressed. That's your guy.
Yeah, so shout out to Kelvin Horn, Christopher's Pinpoint. We'll have to make sure that we get him on the podcast too, talk about that as soon as we get Devin in something that isn't from Macy's. So, but I don't know. But at the same time, I don't know if he's going to be able to get you anything with sequins on it. So we'll have to wait and see.
You just never know. Everybody has to branch out. And, the black shirts worked for me. I own probably 6 or 7 of the things, and we recycle them. And it's just, I'm at the path in my career where court's not really a thing that I have to do, but that's something that y'all do.
Yeah, almost every damn day.
Yeah, pretty much every day. Opened up, and but you do have your nice work boots. I like your work boots, your dress boots. He has that. He has that touch.
He does have that.
So. Well, let's get it started. Brennan, when you came on the scene, I always hate to reference your father because my law firm that I'm part of, E.O.M. Young. O.M. Young started it, but now it's us, the younger people. And everybody always likes to reference us like maybe we just came on board. But the reality is that, and from the standpoint, it's obvious that when you came on board, some changes were made.
Correct.
And what was probably the number one thing to convince your father to do? Because he's wildly successful, but there's always a new school of thought.
I think that pretty much we had already kind of just had things going in the direction where I was going to come and put some touch in, and he was kind of going to ease back, and I think he ultimately wants me to try to get more involved and pretty much take over so he can go home and play golf on the regular and do whatever he does when he does it.
Right.
So but the main thing I think is just trying to get into this new age of marketing. A lot of people, it's a lot of lawyers in Monroe. It's just crazy that a lot of people don't know that it's a lot of lawyers in Monroe. So, you identify that problem quickly when you say, well, I believe it's over 100 lawyers. But if you ask people how many lawyers do you know, they might only be able to name in between 5 to 10 in various practice areas. So, that was one thing that I said we have to get on top of. We have to push that. We have to make sure we get that recognition. And we have to make sure that people know, hey, when I'm in that situation, these are a potential lawyer that I can call.
So what do you think what's different about marketing to people in Monroe, West Monroe, versus marketing in places like Shreveport and Baton Rouge? What does that marketing look like?
I think that it's kind of beautiful to be in Monroe, West Monroe, where the marketing is much less expensive versus being in a Shreveport or being in a Baton Rouge, where you have a lot of guys who spending like $100,000 plus per month just to have their face and name out there, versus you could be in Monroe where you don't really have that much, overcast of just so much media and commercials and billboards over. We have it a little bit, but it's not as much as how they do in Shreveport and Baton Rouge. And I mean, even I was looking at, we were talking to a lady at the news station over there, and she's telling us prices are going over things, and I'm looking like, what? Wait a minute, like, we can get, twice as much in Monroe over here versus in Shreveport. And I mean, in my opinion, I think it's all what and what. I mean, accident is gonna pay what is accident is gonna pay no matter where you are. And I think the main thing is keeping your overhead low as possible.
Yeah. Do you feel like the messaging is the same, or do you feel like people in Baton Rouge or Shreveport respond to a different message or respond better to other messages versus the messaging that we have in Monroe?
Well, I mean, I don't believe this is that much different, because I think Louisiana as a whole, I think because, we are a system of poverty, a state of poverty, when people see money flashing on the screens, that's what's going to grab their attention. Well, how much money can you get me? That's going to be, that's the real name of the game. Like, how much money can you give me? What's the bottom line? Can I actually call you and walk away with thousands of dollars in my pocket? And it doesn't really matter about the accident. Doesn't really matter about how long it took. It's just, at the end of the day, how much money can you get me? And I mean, you have some people that go a little bit deeper and say, hey, I want to deal with a local attorney, or hey, I want to deal with attorneys where I can speak to them, or hey, I want to deal with an attorney that can get me done fast. You have a little bit of that, but for the most part, from my understanding, it's just mainly people want to know, what can you get me, and can you get it to me within a certain amount of time, and can I walk out of here smiling with thousands of dollars in my pocket?
And I think you hit on a great point. Yeah. One is that I have clients that use y'all, and it's always been a great job. Yeah. But there's also another point here there about poverty, and I don't think many people know this, that your father and yourself, you serve your community by doing community work. You actually, in addition to doing car wrecks, I don't think people really know that your father's probably one of the forefront juvenile lawyers. Correct. And that this is transcended into now you do work with defendants. Correct. And it's kind of y'all's way to give back to the community. Kind of tell us about that, because that's one thing that's always existed that I don't think people really realize.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in court and you don't come to the courthouse very often, you're not going to notice that. I mean, as soon as I came back into Monroe, I joined the public defender's office and got that contract and started working with indigent people with strictly DWIs. Well, I mean, first I was doing, because I don't know if you all remember Malcolm DeSille.
Oh yes.
How can we forget Malcolm?
For some reason, he was just taking all the cases. So he had pretty much all the cases for the misdemeanor section. He just said, bring them to me. So when I came in, I was taking up his slack. So I just had random cases, some domestic, some marijuana, some theft, some DWIs. But then we kind of structured that a little bit more better and said, hey, you just take the DWIs. And so then from that point on, I just took the DWIs and went from there. But as speaking on to my father, I think he's been doing this maybe since like 99, where he's the section head for the whole juvenile section, where they deal with child needed care. They deal with the juvenile delinquents. And I mean, I think pretty much anybody in this area, they always result to him for questioning, because he's done it so long. And I think he's even reached outside of this area to deal with that and give other lawyers in the public defender system advice when dealing with those cases.
Yeah. I mean, I refer people all the time to you guys, whether it be for juvenile stuff and also for our car wrecks and things like that. But especially when it comes to someone who has questions about juvenile, I send them straight to you guys, because I'm not going to get into it. So,
one of the interesting things was last night, I guess we all sit up nowadays and watch TikTok and read the articles. But I was reading an article, and as a prosecutor, I experienced it on my side. Individuals would plead guilty to time served, and then they would end up getting released 3 to 6 weeks later. Now there's a lawsuit over it that's been brought by Miss Johnson out of she was actually a Mississippi College law professor. And I think at some point the system's going to have to change. An individual can't plead guilty and get time served and then be released 60 days later. That's just unacceptable. Right. But in that vein, where do you see the legal system evolving the next let's just say 5 years?
I mean, hopefully we can get this thing kind of like more streamlined. I mean, I know that a problem is like when you're doing that calculations, a lot of people don't know who's actually doing it. Whose job is to say, well, this guy spent this amount of days in here, he should be out this particular day. And I don't know if it's the fact that, you know, when you're dealing with parish time, it's the sheriff's office and they're just not concerned about it. And when you're dealing with state time, DLC is just not that concerned about it. Or is it just too overwhelming for them and they need to get more staffers, more resources to get this actually done? Because, I mean, it should be something like an automated system that should be in place where a person can say, well, look, you know, on this particular day, the clerk put in the system that, hey, you got this particular sentence, you should be released within 24 hours. If not, then you should be getting some type of compensation or something should be given to you because, I mean, this is people's livelihood that's been taken away from them, days away from their family, days away from their job, and I think that's a true issue and a problem. But, I mean, I don't know when are we going to get to the point we're actually going to do something about it. What are you thinking, Keith?
I don't think that it's going to be a problem until it's really a problem. The political climate in the state of Louisiana basically doesn't support that right now. I think that we saw that with our last governor's election, and I think that the next governor's election is going to be really telling because I'm not really sure who's going to come forward to be a candidate. Yeah. Because you know, we may have people that are, you know, the stump for Trump types, and we put Eddie Risponi or someone like him back up there. Yeah. And, I mean, hell, he got 49% of the vote. Correct. And then we look at, you know, who else is going to come from the Democratic Party. Because I don't know if John Bel Edwards can touch a candidate right now. I don't know if he can really anoint someone because people are just tired of the system. And so I don't know what the voters are going to respond with whenever we have our next governor election, which I think will be in November of next year. So
I really think that if we look at New York paid $30 million to these people who were held for just hours after their sentence was executed. I think probably on the forefront, it's our next biggest class action that exists is that there is going to be some action there. And I think on the forefront, we've all practiced. I was a prosecutor. I've been a defense attorney in a few cases. Y'all are defense attorneys, never having prosecuted, but it's definitely an issue. It's coming to a head, and I think it's going to be on the younger generation of attorneys who carry this forward. I do think it's a battle we're going to see for years to restore this. You know, when I started as a prosecutor, we incarcerated more per 100,000 than any country in the world. And we don't hold that title anymore, but we're not far from it. And I think part of our lasting legacy will be how we deal with this problem. Right. You know, when you came to the firm, and much probably as we came to the firm back in 2015 and where we were at, we had 75 Hahn filing cabinets, and everything was by paper. Right. And there was a receipt system that was by paper. It was actually note cards, and we still have the note cards because of record keeping purposes. And I still have the Hahn filing cabinets. For anybody listening, I will give you one for free. Take one for a friend if you want. But what kind of changes did you it's very obvious that you kind of modernized what was a very successful firm. What internal changes did you make, any, if you did?
Well, so, I mean, we grabbed more staffers. We increased our staff. I mean, we just had to have it. I mean, you know, it's so much work that could be put on a person, on a paralegal, on a legal assistant, on a secretary. And, you know, generally in this city, most people have so many different hats. You don't really just have it like the bigger cities. Well, this person strictly does that. You might have a secretary that's the paralegal, that might be the legal assistant, drafting documents, making calendars, making coffee, picking up laundry, you know, everything. So, I mean, you know, we really need to get in a situation where we had people who are doing certain things and they kind of, you know, we can lean to them to get this done so we don't have to micromanage that as much. And, I mean, additionally, we had to try to get as digital as possible because, I mean, we spend thousands of dollars on paper, toner, ink. I mean, thousands of dollars on that. I mean, I remember going into my office and I seen somebody had printed out like 180-page discovery. And I said, hey, who did this? And then ended up printing out a whole nother copy of it. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, look, the machine was messing up, so I just went ahead and printed it again. But nobody has the actual true idea that, hey, that's a lot of money you done spent on paper, ink, and toner just with these two files right here. And I'm like, we got to figure out if we can get this Dropbox, if we can get OneDrive or something like that, and use these iPads rather than spend $1,000 on an iPad versus than having to print this stuff and keep going doing it like that. So I mean, when you see me, I usually have my stuff on my phone, so that's why I don't walk around like the old school guys with these briefcases, these
rolling bags and whatever else.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at my file through my phone. But I mean, that's some of the stuff that I was trying to deal with and get us on board with, and trying to get us in a position where we can be more flexible and we can move. Because I mean, we have to handle 3 locations, just my father and I. And I mean, people are like, man, how y'all doing that? But I mean, we had to get our system, improve our system, get everything in place so we can maneuver and be more flexible.
So have y'all expanded to have staff in the Philippines or Belize or anything like that? Anyone offshore?
We hadn't done any virtual assistants. I mean, we still a little bit more old school when it comes down to that. I mean, I seen people do it, but I mean, I keep getting the commercials on my phone, but I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. Let's deal with some virtual assistants. I just don't know how that really goes. Have you tried it?
Yeah, we'll talk after this because both Devin and I have people. Devin has people in Belize, right?
We have people in Mexico. We have approximately somewhere any given time around 20 people in Mexico.
Good.
Yeah, and I have 2 people in the Philippines.
Good. Okay.
So,
and I can also tell you how you traverse that whenever you come into a successful firm with an older person who says, and the biggest thing we used to always get is well, bring me their file and I'll look at it. And I wanted to find a way, and so how could I bring them the file without printing the paper? And it's always funny because Oral, the senior, would always buy stuff on eBay and Amazon, but then he'd tell me that he doesn't know how to work a phone. and I always love the fun stories when you come into what is a very successful practice, and you're changing the way, you're kind of changing up the way the ingredients are made and trying to make it more efficient. But I'm sure there's many days where your father says, bring me the file, and then they tell him, hey, it's on the computer.
Right.
And he has to find the computer to get there.
Exactly. Hey, it's already been emailed to you. Check your email. I mean, that's a constant. Hey, check your email. Check your email.
But they're wildly successful and great lawyers and produced great products and great legacies that we were able to step into and modernize and push to the forefront.
Exactly.
It's thankful for it, but it has its own challenges. It's not as it's inheriting 75 Han filing cabinets.
So along that line, what do you think was the biggest challenge in stepping into your dad's firm?
I think it just comes down to trying to make sure that his mind was on the same page as mine, and making sure that he has that same vision as far as what we need to grow and what we need to move further. Because, I mean, a lot of the ways that older people have it, and they say, well, look, I got here by doing this. This is how we should do it. And it's not saying that, what he's saying is wrong, but it's saying that, hey, that method can be tweaked. We can make it better. I mean, nobody's still driving a 1960 car, 1970s car in 2022 unless it's a true antique. But nobody's driving it for the purposes of... Hey,
it's not their daily.
Exactly. Nobody's doing that. So, I mean, it's the reason why. Because as the times go by, you get more technology, you can tweak things, and you can make things better, more efficient, and that's what my sole purpose is.
I think, one of the things that you run into in this game that to kind of switch streams is that a lot of times you get in these communities of lawyers and it feels like it's competition. And I have a friend who has a massive personal injury firm, roughly takes 2,000 personal injury cases a month, who once said, the lawyers where he's from worry about him all the time. And he said, look, I'm 10% of the market.
Right.
He said, you're not worried about the other 90%. And I kind of take that theory with the bankruptcy practices is that we make our own clients. If they don't hire us, they generally don't hire somebody else. Do you feel like it's really taking competition, is this marketing is taking from other people, or is it creating your own clients?
Well, I think the new age marketing is definitely affecting, local guys who never marketed a day in their life. I mean, it almost if you talk to any older lawyers, they pretty much think that, marketing should be, left for like appliances and things of that nature, not for professional practices. So I think that from my understanding, a lot of people have had their caseloads minimized due to the marketing because people have forgotten about them. People don't know that they exist. People don't know that they do what they do. So therefore, I think, when you mention people who've come into town recently from other cities and have started marketing, I think that has affected the market as far as the local attorneys. I mean, we can see that when we see new construction, new buildings, new offices. We can see lawyers shutting their office down and joining their other firms. I mean, we can see things along the lines of that. And it has to make sense for them to join over there, so they have to be getting some kind of cases. And if the cases are not going to these other people and going to them, then somebody's losing somewhere. Yeah. I mean, that's just like the new Checkers. The new Checkers over there by ULM. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Checkers is right there and Burger King is down the street. What's going to happen? Yeah. I mean, you can't eat Checkers and Burger King in the same time.
And a lot of the lines is in the most recent research shows is that used to the prevailing theory was you need 7 contacts with somebody in order for them to buy your product, invest in what you're selling them. The most recent research says that contacts, because of our pervasive use of social media and phones and things like that, and how content can get delivered to you almost on a daily instant. Most people wake up every morning and look at their phone. The amount of contacts for an individual to hire you or to invest in your product mentally or with their money is 22 contacts now. And it seems, as I've seen your advertisements and the more aggressive form of advertisement that you have with the more persuasive advertisement how do you get in front of them 22 times now?
So, I mean, we try to basically just do, like I said, we take advantage of the rates here in the local area. I mean, we try to take advantage of everything from radio, from dance studio shout-outs, from posters in all the local schools, gyms, from talking to the coaches, football coaches, from going to banquets, from going to events, from sponsoring events, parties, anything that we could possibly do. I mean, we're trying to put our hands in there. And that even goes into showing support for local businesses. Like, we spend money with local businesses. So at the end of the day, we should come across your mind at least once, because we just came in there and spent some kind of money with you previously that week or that day or last month. So, I mean, that's what I strive to do, make sure that I'm supporting everybody around here. So at the end of the day, my name is in that hat when it's time for it.
And I think it's come off well. I mean, y'all have a great community presence. Y'all have always done stuff for the community, especially with your work with the IDB, and your father's head of the juvenile section. That's a job that is a difficult job, a necessary job.
Oh, yeah, super difficult.
But it's one that probably is not what's building this firm income stream wise, but it's providing to the community.
Correct. I mean, it's definitely a situation where I know that I've bumped heads with other people in public defender's office, and I always think like, man, I really don't need this, but it's good work to do, and it's nice to help people and actually take care of things. I mean, when I talk to a public defender client, they say, hey man, you got me situated. I liked how you took care of me. I like how you talked to me. It almost makes them feel like I was a private attorney, and I like that because the public defenders have a negative light on them, saying, hey man, you're a public defender, you don't care about me. You just gonna sell me out, and it's just gonna be this and that. But I mean, to be able to put them in that position where, okay, they feel like I did something for them, and they leave happy. I like that. That's enjoyable.
Now, here's the part of the podcast where me and Keith have both copped up to probably our most embarrassing moment starting. and you probably haven't heard it, but my most embarrassing one is when the judge and the defense attorney took me in the back and showed me how to admit a bag of evidence in a marijuana trial. If you don't know my sin, I never actually took any trial practice class. I just learned it from Jerry Jones. Yeah. Keith admitted to his, and so at this point, we ask you, at this point in your career, what do you think is that most embarrassing moment?
I think one of the most embarrassing moments so far has been the time where I actually I had a trial. I had a battery trial, and I had Judge Tammy Lee was in city court, and I ended up showing up. I think I ended up showing up late or something like that. I think I got my times mixed up, and I showed up late, and it was a special setting. So I walk in, everybody's looking, they looking at me. Client had called me several times, and I'm like, I didn't realize it was this. I thought it was gonna be some other things on the docket, but it's only my thing on the docket. So I walk in, I'm looking like, I'm thinking everything gonna be good. I walk straight in, walk straight to the desk where my client was at, And I'm thinking we're going to get started. No, sir. She ends up getting deep into me right in front of everybody. And I'm talking about knee deep into me. So I'm looking like, goodness gracious. Like, I hadn't even talked like this by my mom in like over 15 years. So I'm looking like, man, like she really ripping me one. So, I mean, that had to be. And then my client right here. Then we got defendant. So I'm looking like, how am I going to persevere through this and still be able to cross-examine people and still be able to push forward with this whole case? Why after she did that, like everything has been reduced. Like I went from here to what now I'm right here. So I really had to, all right, let's pull tight. Let's get everything back together. Let's twist my tie up, And then now we was able to push forward, and I ended up getting a responsive verdict on that one.
So those young lawyer lessons,
Yeah.
I spent the next days writing down evidence foundations. It's just something I didn't ever have a trial practice class. My ascent was to be a tax lawyer, and I ended up being a criminal lawyer. I think through failure comes success. I think
Correct.
it's the speed bump. And I've always seen you, and every time we've talked about several things. We've talked about issues, and it's just always one of those things that it's clear that you see that, look, failure's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But the key is make a successful rebound.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's like one of the things that when you're in law school in this finals time, that's what everybody stresses about. Man, I got to try to make the best grade possible. And you kind of bring that out into the real world where it's like, all right, I got to do everything perfect. Got to do everything perfect. And you really kind of mess yourself up because it's not you taking it easy, making sure everything's done, make sure you're prepared. You're literally trying to make sure everything is perfect, which is really not possible. You can't control everything. Yeah. Something is not going to happen right. You're not going to know something. It's going to be a wild card being thrown. I think that's why the law is so fluid. And I think if you just go ahead and, be cool about it, relax, and just say it is what it is, then you'll be better off.
All right, so you stepped in this. I just want you to know, when Devin went to law school, he didn't have a backup plan. When I went to law school, I did not have a backup plan other than unless you count my teaching certificate. That's the only backup plan I had. Right. What was going to law school like for you whenever you're like, oh, man, Dad's got a law firm back home? Number one, were there other guys in law school like, man, Brennan ain't worried about this. Yeah. Brennan's got family back. Was that because I'll be honest, that's how I looked at those folks. And they said, oh, my dad's got a firm. Oh, my family's got a firm. Like they're just here. They're just here to get through. Yeah. Did you get people giving you the side eye? Did you get people just straight up making remarks about how, man, you don't need any of this. You just got to get a C. You just got to get a passing grade.
I mean, I think I had that mentality myself. I'm like, look, what do I need to know about a succession? Like, why do I need to know about, sales and lease? Like, I had that own mentality for myself because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to go back home and, we do personal injury. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if anything, let me lock in on torts. And I'm like, hey, as long as I'm locked in on torts, I know what's going on. I'm good. But I did get a little bit of grief from some people. I mean, just with me having that type of attitude where it's like, oh, man, you're not really taking it serious, whatever. I remember one time that was a bad thing about it because my dad went to the same school I went to. Mm-hmm. I remember one of my professors actually called, like I was in high school, called my dad.
Like getting called to the principal's office or something.
He called like, hey, man, you might want to check on him. I'm like, man, what's the deal? What's the deal with that? But I mean, I guess that's what you get when you go down that path and everybody's familiar with everybody.
Wow.
And I end up getting that reality check right there and just say, hey, man, go ahead. And I'm talking back to him like, I don't need none of this. But, hey, you do need it because you need it to graduate and for you to be able to take the bar, which I later learned if I would have took it more seriously, then I wouldn't have such hard trouble studying for the bar because I'm looking at the bar, looking at some material for the first time. Like, man, what is this? Yeah. I'm having to learn from the bar when I really should have just been taking it serious in the class, and that would have been that.
Well, I don't think anybody questions your skills. I think you picked it up and you're able to run with it and you've done well with it. It's one of those learning things. I didn't pick up criminal law. I said I don't need it. I'm going to tax law school, and after this I'm going to go to an LLM program and now I'm here.
Yeah, and I almost had the same kind of story because whenever I was in law school, I was thinking, I'm just going to be a personal injury lawyer. I want to do some kind of mass tort, toxic tort, those kind of big things. Right. And here I am, I won't even take a car wreck now. I'd rather get punched in the forehead. So, look, you and I first connected over Think and Grow Rich, and I want to know, number one, has your dad read Think and Grow Rich, and just answer that. Has your dad read Think and Grow Rich?
I'm not sure if he's read it. I can't say if he has or if he hasn't.
Okay, so with you and at least you and I know that we have that Think and Grow Rich mentality. And what is my definite chief aim? What is my, or even what is, because rich does not have to be in money. It can be in time. It can be in things. It can be in friends. It can be in family. But just if we're talking about business and being business owners and entrepreneurs, whether it be in the realm of criminal, or not criminal defense, but in the realm of being a professional and a lawyer, or even in, your side hustle in real estate, if you even consider that side hustle, I don't know, you may consider that a part-time job unto itself. Do you think that you having that mentality, and then you going into work with your dad now, do you think, did y'all bump heads over those ideas that you and I have, where Think and Grow Rich is our foundation on entrepreneurship and personal growth?
No, I think that we're on the same page where, this is a business. I mean, you have to we have a love for the law, but at the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, you have to operate like a business. That's why a lot of people aren't successful. They may have the academics, they may have the knowledge on the law, but they don't realize at the end of the day, this is a business. You have to have some sense of business for you to be able to move forward, and you have to have that balance. Especially when you're like us, where you pretty much manage and operate your practice yourself.
Yep.
Like, if something goes wrong, you can't look around and blame anybody. It's going to be on you. And so you have to have that mentality. But as far as, us knowing how business works, we also realize we have to diversify our portfolio. Just in case, because we've seen a lot of lawyers that's in their 70s and 80s, that's all they have is the law. They didn't do any diversifying of their portfolio. So I know when I saw that, I want to make sure, hey, what do I need to do to diversify my portfolio? I mean, my dad is in several different ventures, several different industries outside of the law, which I picked that up from him. So now I basically engage, and I have several other LLCs that deal with real estate and that deal with other investment ventures. So, now you can kind of take some of that money and kind of brush it over so that money can continuously work, because we know we're going to make some money with the law. We just don't know how much it's going to be at all times, but we know we're going to make some money. So if it ever slows up, we make sure we have something going on the back end, so we can make sure we always going to be taken care of, and we don't have to say, well, shoot, man, we gotta scrape up, we gotta do expander for $250, we gotta try to undercut somebody else.
Right.
All the stuff that some of the people have to do out here just to survive.
Yeah.
Because it can turn into that.
Or otherwise just die at their desk, basically, is the alternative.
Exactly, and that's not what we want to be. So definitely engaged a lot in real estate. Like I'm engaged heavy in real estate. Really supposed to do a closing yesterday to wrap up a flip that I had completed with my partners in Baton Rouge, where it was a group of guys that I came up with in Monroe, which I kind of pretty much became the CEO of that operation and brought those guys together. And so now we're engaged in several different investment opportunities, from car rentals, from house flipping, from apartment holding, several things along the lines of that. So that's my thoughts on business.
So are you guys in Turo as well?
So we deal with a private company.
Okay.
That deals with rentals. So we would deal with Turo, but in smaller markets, Turo isn't as popular. So we deal with a private company who leases out vehicles, and we just have vehicles in their fleet that they lease out. Okay.
All right. And so with that in mind, what do you think would be, if there's a young lawyer or just a young professional that's, thinking about, okay, I need to diversify a little bit beyond just the everyday stocks and crypto and stuff like that. Where's a place that they can start just diversifying that's going to be maybe an easy buy-in for them?
I believe you could do something like, depending on if you had a down payment, you can always get a small rental in Monroe. That's again goes into why I like Monroe. You could start pretty much in anything for a cheap price. You could start dealing with like a small rental where you can buy one for like maybe $20,000-$30,000. Put a small down payment, because that was my first one. My first rental, I purchased it for $32,000. Ended up selling it when I graduated law school for $68,000. So I just ended up getting kind of lucky on that one, but I maintained it and I kept it. And I think the down payment was like $4,500. So I mean, to me at that time, that's a no-brainer. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean, you could easily get into the game of that in various places. I mean, you may be on the south side of town, on the lower end side of town, but you just getting in the game. So you get in the game from that standpoint. Or I mean, you have several different things that are successful in other cities, and that's another reason why I like Monroe, because you can go to Dallas or Baton Rouge and see what's working here, and say, well, we don't have that in Monroe. Let's bring that to Monroe, and it could just be on a smaller scale. Because I knew a guy that had a snow cone stand that he bought for like $7,000-8,000. He made like $40,000 in one summer. I mean, that's simple. That's a no-brainer. All you need is syrup and ice.
Yeah,
and that's that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so many different things that you can do. And I mean, you get a high school worker, you paying them minimum wage. They like that. That's happy. They do whatever. So. And that's another thing, touching on what you can pay a person here and what they'll be satisfied with. Because I mean, if you're making the same money as people throughout the state, you have the lower overhead, you have the lower cost. I mean, you can still get into the game anywhere. I'm sure it might be like that back at your hometown, where it may be even lower to get into.
Let's not talk about my hometown. Let's not talk about my hometown. So we don't want to talk about that. Not here, not now.
I mean,
so maybe someday, but that'll have to be another episode, because we don't have that kind of time today.
Yeah, Keith pays by the hour to talk about his hometown.
That's for damn sure. So that of all the things that I pay for therapy for, that's high on the list. So let's talk about this. Do you think that Manning Law Firm is always going to have roots in Monroe, or do you see a day where Manning Law Firm expands to have headquarters in Shreveport or headquarters in Baton Rouge, or what do you see as the ultimate vision for Manning Law Firm?
I think that we'll never leave Monroe. I mean, a lot of people ask me, hey, why y'all still here? Why are you still here? Why you won't go to a bigger place? But me personally, I'll never leave. I mean, I think that, this is the place where I played AAU. I played, baseball. I played soccer. I played basketball. I'm in the intramurals. I'm in the rec leagues. I go to church here, like, deal with everything here. So, I mean, you can't leave that. Because if you do, you have to now establish that somewhere else. And I'm not saying that you could, but why would you want to ever leave home where you've already gotten everything that you need and everybody supports you and you can help people that you personally know? It's not you creating something or having to be fake with people. Like, it's genuine love here, it's genuine support. I genuinely know that, hey, I've met this person and he has a problem and I helped him, and then he ended up telling me about his grandma and I helped his grandma. And I just like being able to be in that little small community. I think Monroe has the best of both worlds. It's big, but it's small at the same time.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it. I liked it. I mean, I actually like the fact we can go from 165 north to 165 south in 15 minutes. I mean, that's so
not
enjoyable.
doing that in Baton Rouge.
No, I enjoyed it. So for me, I mean, the lifestyle, the people, the culture, I mean, I like it. And then the fact that I like the challenge to where Monroe as a whole needs to have more modernization. If everybody keeps leaving, like the people my generation, if they keep leaving, we'll forever be where we are.
Yeah.
And I want to be part of that group of people that said, hey, we kind of did something different, and we gave Monroe a little bit of splash of something different and made it to where it will eventually be. And it has the potential to be. I mean, we have 3 colleges here, ULM, Grambling, Rust, and everything within 70 miles, but you don't really see that. And Baton Rouge has 2. Baton Rouge has 2 colleges?
Yeah, Southern and LSU.
Yeah. And then the community college.
Yeah, and I think Our Lady of the Lake does some medical programs, and that's about it.
And so, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, we have just as much of the people that they have, and we have things that we can do to make it to where it's more appeasing and more appealing for people to come and live here and grow here and make this place a better place.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something I've tried to emphasize to everybody in my marketing, is that we have 3 universities within 45 minutes of each other.
Correct.
So just like we have, just as much as there's a, frankly, there is a target market or a possibility for, kids 18 to 22 to go out and get DWIs every weekend.
Right.
That's also a hell of a lot of talent that's just embedded here in 45 minutes.
Correct.
So, and I mean, we could even go the opposite direction, go about an hour, and we've got Alcorn, and what else is over in Vicksburg? Is there another university in Vicksburg?
Wait, no. But I know, just a little short ways, Jackson State.
Exactly.
Jackson
And then you
State.
have Jackson State, Tougaloo, Millsaps,
Yeah.
Belhaven.
Belhaven. So I mean, we're right in the middle of a place where there's a plethora, and then University Medical Center. Yeah. I mean, Jackson, Mississippi is doing a lot of things that's not right now, but they have the medical center and their medical research. Yeah. I mean, that's serious business over there. Yeah. It's one of the top places in the nation for research.
Correct.
So, I'm glad that you point that out, that there is a wealth of not only talent available, but a wealth of opportunity available for people that are our age.
Correct. Which, I mean, I see when I last went out to Ruston, and I ended up bumping into the mayor, and he was talking about his vision and how he was going to get tech to tap in with Ruston for it to be a more technical city. And I was like, dang. That's really going to sound good. And he was just kind of like giving his overview about it. And I was like, take it. When was the last time you've been to Ruston?
A couple of weeks ago. I go over there every once in a while.
How nice it's looking and
yes.
how clean it looks.
Yes.
Downtown.
I think.
Man.
And they got the food truck park.
The food truck park.
Even if it is only 3 or 4 trucks, I mean,
but it's
that's
still there.
Exactly. That's 3 or 4 more than we have here right now.
Correct.
Yeah, it's starting to get the flair and the flavor of a larger location. I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico 2 weeks ago, and some of the things you saw in downtown San Juan, Puerto Rico, you could see in Ruston. You can see the glimmer of it coming up through Monroe. You can even see the glimmer over in West Monroe. I think
you definitely see it.
Mayor Mitchell's brought some things to the table. Friday Ellis has clearly brought some things to the table, and I think we're going to continue to grow with that growth mindset that we have here, that we can leverage these assets that we have that's in the youth here, as long as people our age keep it reinvesting. I say our age because I'm trying to bring my age down. But that said, people in their 30s and early 20s and mid 20s, we can begin to reinvest in these things. It's a breath of fresh air to see people investing their intellectual capital and their monetary funds in Monroe, Ruston, and West Monroe to create a modernized place. I also think it's a place where you can grow your dollar faster. You just really can, while helping your community.
Because, I mean, you catching it at the perfect time, right, when it's kind of low and it's gaining, and that's the perfect spot you want to be in. You can't go to Dallas and just buy some land in downtown or buy a building in downtown for less than $500,000, and then eventually, in probably like the next 5-10 years, it's going to be worth $1 million. Like, you just can't do it.
That's those type areas where you just need a small loan from your father of maybe $1 million,
Right.
Which is what we saw a long time ago. But
Right. Well,
but it's one of those things where I think, and I know that the dollar goes further, but on the flip side of it, as you said many times over, not only does the dollar go further, but you get to watch it grow in your community and help your community that you grew up with, that helped you become the person you are.
Exactly.
It's just reinvestment.
Said another way, that means that we all have to be patient if we're going to stay here.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be any overnight success. So it's going to take 5, 10, 15 years to be an overnight success.
And I think you've hit all around the bubble, but the thing we generally end on is this: we ask every person this question.
What's the question?
And the question is the citizen effect actually means to find something and leave it better.
Right.
So I ask you, what is your citizen effect going to be? What are you going to find and leave better?
I mean, hopefully, I can find people who actually want to be better, want to do better, want to make this a better place, and I actually can reach out to them and we can collaborate in some type of way and make this community better. And that's around the board. Because, I mean, I don't know if you paid attention, but the city is kind of, segregated in a way to where, the people who have are on this side, the people who don't have are on this side, and the areas don't truly blend.
No.
It's a huge gap in between the people who have and people who don't have. And I kind of want to put that, because, I mean, I still meet people every day, never been to Tower Drive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to me, I'm like, I always go to Tower Drive. Like, how could you not go to Tower Drive? How can you not stop by Hobby Peas? How can you not go to Delta Biscuit? Like, things of that. And I'm like, why is that? Why are not people fully immersed across the city and really been able to explore the city and know what the city has to offer? Because people are so quick to say, hey, Monroe doesn't have anything. But in my opinion, Monroe has a lot.
Yeah.
It has a lot. You know, people might say, well, how many restaurants in Monroe? Some people think about 10. To me, believe it's like over 125.
Yeah.
But
easily.
That's my thought process on it. Where I've traversed through both sides of Monroe, pretty much all corners of it, and I just kind of want people to get to this point where, hey, everybody's coming together and everybody's trying to do something, and that's really my true vision of being in Monroe and wanting to stay in Monroe and having my impact in Monroe.
I think when you look at Monroe, West Monroe, Sterlington, the surrounding Washita Parish area, a lot of times people will describe to you a piece of the pie and not realize there's a whole pie.
Correct.
And I think when we look at the whole of the pie, we have a lot to offer.
Right.
And once we realize we all come from the same pie, we're going to realize that we have a lot to give.
Correct.
All right, so with the really big question out of the way, Brennan, tell the audience where they can find you on social, or if they have a personal injury, a car wreck, or other tort claim or other personal injury type claim, where can they find you?
So the website is going to be www.bobbymanning.com, tribute to my father, and then the my social media handle is going to be Attorney Manning on not Facebook, but Instagram, and then it's going to be Brennan Manning on Facebook.
All right.
So y'all go follow Brennan Manning on Facebook. Go follow Attorney Manning on the Instagram, and then if you have any personal injuries, anything like that, car wrecks, workers' compensation, mass torts, toxic torts, that kind of stuff, slip and falls, make sure that you are contacting the Manning Law Firm and ask for Brennan and Bobby. Not that there's any other lawyer there, but they're definitely the two of my favorites here in town. Brennan, I can't tell you how thankful I am, how grateful I am that you volunteered the last couple hours to spend with us. Man, I'm really grateful to have you and your dad as friends and mentors. I can't say that enough.
Oh, yeah.
So
Appreciate it.
Man, appreciate y'all.
All right.
absolutely.